Taylor children gathered around the hospital bed with our dad, Bobby Taylor, lying there with his eyes closed, and the helpful nurse leaning over to listen to something he was trying to say. What, we wondered? What did he have to share with us, his family? What words of wisdom? What profound sentiments did he have to impart? The nurse listened. Mr. Bobby, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say something? She leaned closer. What are you trying to say, Mr. Bobby? What? She stood up with a kind of surprised look on her face. He says he wants a beer. So Charleston got him a beer. One of those little bendy straws, and kind of put it up and kind of perked him up. Did I mention that was July 2 years ago? He just wasn't ready to go, I guess. Wasn't ready to go. Maybe it was because it was July, and everybody knows that July is the middle of growing season, and how can you leave when the crop is not in? Bobby Taylor was one of the best farmers in Barber County. He had an amazing talent for making things grow. Farmer of the Year, 79, Cotton King for several years. He was well respected as a farmer. Of course, as Frankie and Paula can tell you, for keeping the books for a couple of years, he was also the worst bookkeeper ever. Keeping his books was a nightmare. Why? Probably because his solution to all of life's matters was just to grow more next year, which he did an amazing number of times. He provided for us all. But when you have such a talent for growing things, then how can I put this? When you're not that interested in keeping score, in keeping accurate accounts of who owes you what, when you know it all comes from the generous earth, from God's good bounty, when you know that, it makes you a very generous person. Have any of you ever gotten a small amount of vegetables from Bobby Taylor? No, he gave by the vat, by the Kroger sack full. When I think of my father's life, it's almost as if his whole life were itself an act of generosity. When I was about 13 or so, Daddy and Jeff and I went fishing in Uncle Guy's pond. I, of course, knew exactly to fish by that age. He had taught me well. I had my own rod and reel. Had my rod, my reel, my lures, the whole nine. And, of course, little brother Jeff, who was only 4, was soon off chasing butterflies. But I noticed that Daddy put out several lines, as he usually did, and soon one cork started to bob up and down. Hey, Jeff, come over here a minute, he said. He gave Jeff the line, and of course, after much commotion, oh my gosh, Jeff caught his first fish. I thought this was kind of a nice thing to do for a little kid, you know. I told Mom how quaint I thought this was. And she said with a funny sort of smile on her face, yeah, your daddy has always been pretty good about that. Then it hit me. Of course. He'd done that for me. He had done that for me. He'd been doing that for me all these years, and I couldn't remember where his help and my competencies intertwined, separated. I just didn't know. I think that story is the story of his life. If you're a member of St. James, you will remember Bobby Taylor is the one who began the Shrove Tuesday spaghetti suppers years ago and gathered all the men at the big house and stirred great vats of sauce with boat paddles. I'm not making that up. Boat paddles. He, of course, was a cook in the Army and was famous for adding spice into the vat like this, saying, we got to measure exact proportions for the breakfast crew every Sunday morning, or the perennial usher in the back, famous for saying to me at my first sermon that eternal critique of all ushers everywhere, looking at the watch. Good sermon. How many of you have said to us in the past few days, your daddy was the first person that met us at St. James, and he kind of took us under his wing? I won't even ask how many here got a hug. He loved this church. How many newlyweds were given their first cast iron skillet? How many newlyweds here? He stopped counting way after 200. If you knew Bobby Taylor in Columbus years ago, then you would know that generosity in a different way. Did you know that my father began his career as a speech therapist? I've always been interested in the fact that my father began his years on the farm. He began his years as a stutterer and was very shy as a child, really. Miss Betty Blondheim would call him on the phone at night and make him talk on the phone. He got over that, didn't he? Maybe that accounts for this incredible way that my dad had with children. Mom would say sometimes it was because he was in many ways still a child himself, but that's not true. When I was in elementary school, I once went to Daddy's office in Columbus. And when he left the room for a minute, one of the other speech therapists wandered in the room and said something that kind of surprised me. She described Daddy, as she put it, as a kind of genius when it came to working with troubled children. He had a way of reaching children that nobody else could reach. He did it in lots of ways. All we knew was that he came to the public school and played old maids. But I think it was his kindness, his essential kindness that was at the heart of his personality. It radiated from his soul. He was the kindest person I've ever known. And the most comfortable person, the most comfortable with who he was. He never for 1 second in his life tried to be somebody he was not. I think that must have been something that Mama first saw in Daddy that she fell in love with years ago. That sense of perfect acceptance. His easy way with people. Yes, his generosity. His spirit of adventure. His fun. With Mama, his accommodation to her great, magnificent, wild schemes and spectacular plans. Why don't we go to England on the SS United States, back in the ship, take the family, live on a farm in the Cotswolds in England, have an adventure? Well, we can do that. And we did. What an adventure we had. What a pair they were. What a gift to have a big daddy as your grandfather. All these grandchildren have a lifetime of memories tucked into their childhood, like snapshots of happiness. Memories of bear hugs, break any bones, hay rides on the farm, learning to drive on the farm at age 9, eating the alligator, breakfast, choose the color of your grits, show and tell at your school when he brought a real cotton plant, yoo-hoos in the office. The office, as the kids used to say, OMG, oh my God. The 1,000 hats on the ceiling, 1,000,000 shot glasses, coins, a bass on the wall that turns and sings, take me to the river. Guns to shoot out back. And there's a whole category of memories of Mexico Beach. Those years with the Stearns and the Dockerys and the Gables and the Welches. How he and his great friend, Ray Dockery, would take us out, way, way out in the ocean in that rusty, rickety old 14-foot boat. That's a good boat. That's a real good boat. Out down the buoy lines. We had a lot of luck right there in that buoy number 7. The ice chest. One ice chest. Open the top and there's a king mackerel. flopping around with blood going everywhere, and right under it, Milky Way bars, Cokes, and all sorts there here. If you had to go to the bathroom, well, we'll not get into that. And I won't embarrass Sylvia by bringing up that picture. His expressions that have been seeped into our everyday language. If you say, "Big Daddy, I'm thirsty," he'll say, "How glad I am to see you back." When you've just eaten a massive meal, "Well, I have been sufficiently satisfied." Yes. Or at the very least, "Well, I enjoyed what looked like." We all know what it means to have Audubon hair. Been on a collie. My son came from his speech students years ago in Columbus. "You're not pregnant, you're predicate." From a child he was trying to teach to say thermometer, the child came back the next day and said Mama Tuma. So my mom was Mama Tuma. And I need to set the record straight about how he lost his finger. Each generation has been told a different story, but no, he did not lose his finger giving marshmallows to the alligator or any other way. Frankie and Paula and Jeff and I and all the nieces and nephews here, we know the truth. That he was eating a hamburger. And he stuck his finger in the hamburger and bit it off by accident. I have a word to say to Van and all the sinners. You who took care of Daddy and put up with him and loved him to the end. You may not think of yourselves this way, but I'm here to pronounce to you that you are angels. Yes, you are angels. For God's angels are God's messengers, who, as tradition has it, help us human beings kindly from one realm to the next. You know who you are. You are the ones who whisper into my mother's ear, "Miss Silligan's going to be all right. You're all right. We're going to take care of you." You are the ones who teased with Mr. Bobby and tried to get him to get up and exercise. Good luck with that one. Were patient when he tried to get you to give him the keys to the car, or give him a Milky Way bar, or go to the store and get him some Old Table bourbon. Yes, you are angels. But as it turns out, you were angels in the end as well. The day before he died, Daddy asked Mary Ann his very last request in this life. "Take me to the farm. I want to go to the farm." And what did you say, Mary Ann?
"I'll take you."
"I'll take you." I said, "Yeah, we'll go. I'll take you. We'll go tomorrow." That's what really happened that morning. That morning when that great heart of his finally stopped beating, that's what happened. He went to the farm. You know, every culture, every religion that God has given us human beings, God gives us an earthly image of that place of goodness and grace and bliss that is our promised end, as the gospel says, in God's own heart. For the Hebrews, it was the promised land. For the Hindus, nirvana. For the Vikings, Valhalla. For Jesus and us Christians, the kingdom of God. For my Father, the concrete earthly representation of the kingdom was the farm. I want to go farm. Take me to the farm. For it is the farm that is the place where things grow, where the sun shines and the rains come and you go and work the soil and harvest the bounty of God's creation and are generous with that bounty. It is where this family has made its living for generations. But it's even more than that. The farm is the place where our life comes from. All of us. It's the place where children go for hay rides and tractor rides on the wheel fenders of the tractor, where they feed alligators and shoot guns and play in hay barns and learn how to fish. It is the place where children have the time of their lives with their Big Daddy. We will never forget it. I want to go to the farm. Take me to the farm. On this day, we will commend Bobby Taylor to God's own heart. We will commend him to the farm. And he will be in that place of perfect rest and peace where there is life eternal. Eddie, we commend you this day to the farm, and we give thanks to God for God's gift that was you. In every important measure of honesty, measure of integrity, measure of neighborliness, measure of generosity, the measure of kindness. In all of these measures, you will always be my standard for what a man should be, what a good person should be. We will remember you and hold you in our hearts forever. Thanks be to